O'clock. The Warwick City Finance Committee is now open. May I have a motion for acceptance of the minutes for the committee meeting held on October 17th?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now we move on to PCR 129-22. The bid package. Bid number 1 is bid 2022-082, State of Rhode Island Public Safety Communications Equipment. Good evening, Chief. Please identify your full name and department.
Assistant Chief Jason Umbenhauer from the Fire Department. Fire Department is requesting a 612 alteration of contract for bid 2022-082, Motorola Public Safety Communications Equipment. Request is to increase the spending authority to Motorola Solutions by an additional $793,797.55 with no change in the effective dates. In August of this year, the Fire Department was awarded an $817,000 federal assistance grant to replace all the fire department's mobile and portable radios. The department is requested to add additional spending authority to our contract already in place with Motorola Solutions, who's the sole provider of new Motorola public safety equipment to the state of Rhode Island. The funds from this request will be expended from the budget account 368-0403, which is the FEMA AFG grant account.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions from members of the committee? Councilman Gebhardt.
Chief, thank you. The radios that you're getting, are there other infrastructure spends or any other changes that you have to make in order to accommodate these, or are these the same technology?
Yeah, later on in the big package, you'll also see an increase to cyber communications. They're the people who program and install those Motorola radios. So this is the one part of it. This is just $24,000 shy of the total award. That almost exclusively go to Motorola. We use exclusive Motorola equipment. And then later on, I'll ask for another $24,000 to do the installs and the programming of those radios.
Okay, got it. And so is this radios and other transmission devices, or is it just radios? It's
mostly portable radios, mobile radios. We're getting 4 digital vehicle repeaters, so basically a mobile repeating system for the radio, some charging units, and a piece of software which integrates in with our air packs and allows us to GPS locate firefighters within a building as part of the package.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of the committee? Questions from members of the council? Councilman Lattisaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Chief.
Good evening.
Chief, I'm trying to, excuse me, come up with some math here, and I guess I'm going to need your help with it.
Okay.
So you say that you're requesting an additional $793,797 and change to bring the award to $954,465. So the previous contract award from 1/1/22 to 12/31/23 was $110,668, correct?
It was an increase of $110,668. So the original bid was for $50,000, and when we got last year's federal grant, we increased that by $110,668, which brought the total new award to $160,668. And then this on top of that brings it to the $954.
Okay, that answers the question. I was exactly 50,000 difference in what you had here, so now I'm clear on that.
This is our second amendment to this contract.
It says in here, well, first of all, you have to, the city's going to come up with $74,345 of this too, right?
That's correct. It's a 10% match.
Okay. It says in here, before you request and receive any of the federal funds awarded to you, you must establish acceptance of the award through the FEMA Grants Outcomes FEMA GEO system. By accepting this award, you acknowledge that the terms of the following documents, et cetera, et cetera. Has that been completed?
Yes, it has.
Okay. That's all I have, Chairman. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions from members of the council? Questions from members of the public? Questions from members of the public? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Bid 2023-236, purchase various police vehicles. Good evening, Major. Please identify your full title, name, and department.
Good evening, Major Andy Sullivan, Warwick Police Department.
Thank you.
The police department is requesting a 56-6 exception to bid for the purchase of 4 unmarked police vehicles. If approved, the vehicles would be purchased from Colonial Municipal Group, also known as CMG, under the Greater Boston Police Council cooperative bid. The total cost for the 4 vehicles is $118,166.60. The itemized list for the 4 vehicles are two 2022 Ford Edge SE all-wheel drive vehicles, 1 Ford Escape S all-wheel drive, and 1 2022 Chevy Malibu sedan. By utilizing the 56-6 exception to bid, we will be able to take immediate delivery of these civilian model vehicles. The purchase of these 4 vehicles would be part of the fiscal year 23 vehicle purchase plan. The 4 vehicles will be directly assigned to the Detective Division and will help update their older fleet of vehicles. If approved, the purchase would be made utilizing ARPA funds budget code 510-0400.
Thank you, Major. So these are vehicles are not used. They're just layovers from the 2022 year.
Yes, these vehicles are, again, supply chain attractive, if you will.
Yep.
They're sitting and waiting and have been put aside pending this approval.
And I can tell you that the price, well, my personal opinion, the price is a decency, and that I just helped one of my relatives do a little bit of car shopping, and this seems to be 2019, 2020 prices, not 2022 current market, if you will.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Questions from members of the council? Questions from members of the council? Question from members of the public? Questions from members of the public? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Bid 2023-235, purchase and install walk-in cooler at Pilgrim Senior Center. Good evening, Chrissy. Please identify your name, title, and department.
Good evening, Christy Moretti, Business Manager, Public Works.
Thank you.
First off, I would like to amend this request.
May I have a PCR? The bid 2023-1235 is now is assigned PCR 132-22. And what would you like to amend?
I would like to amend, request to amend the dollar amount from $50,000 to $50,744.45. So it's an increase of $744.45.
Thank you.
And just for the explanation, so the quote that's included in your bid package is dated August 24th. I requested a new quote. We finally got funding secured through the state. Senior Services got grant funding for this in the amount of $50,000. I asked for a new quote, which I received on October 20th. It was too late for it to be included in this package, but the new quote for the cooler is now $50,744.45. And that extra additional funding will not come from the 47,799. It will come from 66,331.
66,331.
Yes,
And what is that? What account is that, please?
that is building maintenance in the building maintenance division.
Thank you. So just for questions, this is not a motion. We are looking, so the 50,000 is coming from account 47,799.
Correct.
The additional $744.45 is coming from account 66,331
Yes,
under building maintenance. Thank you. Okay, I think we all caught up. And if there are any other questions, come up in the questions, but go ahead with your discussion. Thank you, Christy.
So Public Works is requesting to piggyback the state bid with GKT Refrigeration to purchase and have this new walk-in cooler installed at the senior center. The one that they have currently is failing. We managed to get it to limp along right now, but there's a violation from the Department of Health because the flooring is rotting out. So our next direction is to replace it.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the committee? And I will understand, seeing that we just made a minor amendment. Any questions from members of the committee? Questions from members of the council? Councilman Lattisaw.
Thank you. Hi, Christy.
Hi.
Christy, what's the age of that cooler?
I believe that cooler is original to the building. I'm not entirely sure. We've repaired it multiple times over the years, but it's beyond repair at this point.
Then what's the age of the building then?
I'd have to get back to you on that. I'm not entirely sure.
And this talks about it failed an inspection from the Department of Health
Actually, let me,
because of its extremely poor condition. When was that inspection?
just bear with me 1 second. I do have a little bit of information, I believe. I may have left it on my desk. The inspection was done at the end of June. They give 90 days to correct the violation, which obviously for us to correct any violations on this unit, we need to replace it.
So the inspection was, you said the end of June? And we
Yes.
have 90 days to complete it? Then you
Yes.
said, well, I didn't hear what you said after that.
The unit itself is not repairable, so our corrective measure is we need to replace it.
So we're going into the fourth month now. So what does that mean as far as the Department of Health is concerned?
The Department of Health has not yet been back to inspect the unit again. However, we do have, we keep in, contact with them. This is our process. They're not going to continue to violate us. We know we have a violation. We're taking steps to correct it. It's just a process. The state goes through the same type of process when they do this, something like this. So I thought I had brought the violation with me, but I didn't. I apologize.
So when was this refrigerator, when was this inspected prior to the end of June?
That I don't know.
How often is it required to be inspected?
I honestly don't know those kinds of details about this. It's not something that we only get the notified when there's an issue that needs to be corrected, not if there's no issue. So I don't know how often it gets inspected.
Who does know? I mean, there's requirements. The Department of Health has very strict requirements for these type of things. This is no different than a restaurant. And there's certain inspections that are required in certain times. So who does know that?
The senior center, I believe, has records on their cooler.
They have the records of it?
I would imagine so. They're not held in my office.
Has this cooler been used since the end of June?
Yes,
They're
it's
still using
maintaining
it.
temperature.
It's what?
It's maintaining temperature right now. But there are, like I said, I didn't bring the violation with me. I thought I had included it in my package, but I didn't. I can share that with you if you'd like it. But it doesn't negate the fact that we have to do this.
I understand that. I'm trying to get to the reasons for these things that are occurring. So what were what was the position of the Department of Health when they failed this unit? You said it's an extremely poor condition, and it failed an inspection by the Department of Health. What was the instructions from the Department of Health? Did they authorize this center to continue using this cooler? Or did they say, shut it down, you can't use it?
They did not say shut it down, you can't use it. They issued a violation with 90 days to have it corrected. Unfortunately, with our processes, it's a little bit more difficult for us to correct something like that in 90 days for $50,000. So we are at this point where now we are asking permission from the council to purchase this cooler to rectify the problem at the senior center.
And why couldn't you come here sooner? Why couldn't you come here in the
We
August-
didn't have
July
any
meeting or
funding
the
in
August
place.
meeting?
We
Excuse
had
me?
no funding source for this. They just acquired the grant from,
Okay. If you would be so kind as to send me a copy of that violation and the inspection reports of that cooler, whoever has them. I'd be interested in seeing that.
sure.
Okay? That's an okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions from members of the council? Questions from members of the public? Questions from members of the public? Thank you, Christy. We are at the part of the finance docket where I will call on and give members of, oh, yes, I'm sorry. Correction. We're going to take a vote and an action on this since it was amended. So I'm going to read officially into the record the request. I make motion, favorable action as amended or amended PCR. The amendment is increasing the amount from $50,000 to $50,744.45. The $50,000 will still come out of account 47799, and the amount of $744.45 will come out of account 66-331 building maintenance. The amendment is to increase the total amount $744.45. May I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. May I have a motion to approve as amended?
Move favorable action as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, thank you. Thank you. No worries. Now we are at the part where we will look at the finance docket, and I invite members of the committee, the council, and the public to identify any item they wish to pull for discussion that will be discussed within these chambers. Is there any item that members of the committee would like to discuss? Thank you. Mr. President, are there any items? Thank you. Are there any items that members of the council would like to discuss? Councilman Lattisaw.
I would like to discuss item number 4, 2023-204, found on page 35. Item 2023-188, item number 5, found on page 38. And item number 7, 2022-096, found on page 47.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Are there any other items on the bid package that members of the council would like to discuss? Are there any items on the bid package members of the public would like to discuss? Items on the bid package members of the public would like to discuss? Thank you. Hearing none, we'll move on. So per request of Councilman Lattiser, Ward 5, we will discuss first bid 2023-204, Harley Davidson FLHTP Electric Glide, found on page 35. Good evening, Major.
Good evening.
Councilman Lattiser.
Thank you, Chairman. Hello, Major.
Good evening.
Major, I seem to recall not that long ago approving monies for the, for various motorcycles. Could you just refresh my memory on that?
Yes, sir. That was approximately this time last year. We bought 2 used motorcycles. They were 2018 model year from Seacoast in New Hampshire. That was 2 new motorcycles that time. Since then, we've had one that's been totaled. Not necessarily one of those 2, but one in our motorcycle fleet that's been totaled.
First question, hopefully the officer was not hurt in that total bike.
Thankfully, no, he wasn't.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was pots we had approved at one point or a couple of new bikes. So the insurance proceeds that you're referring to in here for $19,717, is that the insurance proceeds from that motorcycle that was totaled?
Yes, sir. That's representative of that one from May of this calendar year.
And how do we acquire those insurance proceeds?
I'm sorry?
How are we going to get those insurance proceeds?
As far as I'm aware, we already have them. The accident was in May.
We already have them?
Yes, so it's been pre-approved through finance for the insurance proceeds.
Okay. And those proceeds are currently in budget code 76358?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I have on that one, Chairman. Thank you, Major.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions from members of the committee? Questions from members of the council? Questions from members of the public? Nope. Thank you. Next on the agenda or on the bid package is 2023-188, police breast hat badges, insignia, nameplates, and mounting bands. This is found on page 38. Councilman Lattiser.
Thank you, Chairman. Major, first of all, these new badges that you're looking to acquire, when do you need them?
We need them anytime there's an officer is promoted, anytime an officer is hired, or in the rare occasion, anytime a badge is lost or stolen or damaged in some way, that officer would need a replacement.
Is that, I mean, a lost badge, that certainly can happen at any time, but as far as a promotion or a new hire, is that anything that you're expecting to occur in the next month or 2?
We do have 3 tests that are ongoing right now, promotional exams, with numerous vacancies that will require badges being issued to the new promoted officers. And then we do have in December, we have candidates graduating the Municipal Police Academy that will require more too. Of course, that will be under this current bid, not the new bid.
What is the badge that you would be needing the most in the next few months?
It's hard to quantify. Probably the most standard one would be officer for new hires. Beyond that, each promotional rank is different, and it's really a scattered list of designations, if you will. They're not any one. Could be sergeant, could be captain, could be lieutenant, detective.
So you state here that this company V&V Manufacturing, which was the overall low bidder, they did not conform to the bid specifications, and the police department has had bad experiences in the past when using manufacturers of like quality badges. Do you have, because we don't have, at least that I've seen in here, a copy of the specifications. What is the difference between a like quality badge and the badges that you specified?
Dramatic difference, sir. I personally had the experience of having a captain badge at my last rank, and the best way to describe it was off yellow. It was supposed to be gold. It was horrible quality. It's very noticeable and just inferior quality. And these are manufactured by these companies as opposed to being an authorized reseller of Blackington.
I would assume that the badge comes with a warranty. If the gold turns green, I would assume it's under warranty and would be replaced.
But they just, sir, they look so off.
They what, please?
They look so off quality from what all the officers currently have that it stands out. These badges aren't, when I tell you that they're just not, you notice a difference. They're not even close.
This bad experience that you're speaking to in your position paper in the past, was this with V&V Manufacturing or with another manufacturer?
I don't know if what manufacturer. I don't believe we used V&V before. The bid specs do require one of three brands, which is Blackington or Smith & Warren. I'm sorry, two brands, Smith & Warren or Blackington. And I did confirm with them through email that they do not resell those. They make their own similar badges.
Yeah, I saw that email. It says, I'm reviewing bid and just confirming V&V is a manufacturer of like quality items and not a reseller of genuine Smith & Warren, Blackington, or Reeves Manufacturing. Had you also consulted with Central Equipment to see if they were using one of those three manufacturers?
Yes, right in the sheet they send back with their prices, it does list the exact model number, which is proprietary to Blackington. It's on the sheet that they provide.
Okay, that VHB B587?
Yes, that's a specific to Blackington.
Okay, that's proprietary to Blackington.
Yes, and
Okay.
that was again listed in the bid specs.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Major. That's all I have on that one.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any further questions from members of the committee? Questions from members of the council? Questions from members of the public? Thank you.
Thank you.
Bid 2022-096, radio communications equipment service repairs and replacement. This is found on page 47. Councilman Lattisaw requested it. Good evening, Chief. Councilman Lattisaw.
Thank you, Chairman. Hi, Chief.
Hello.
So,
I'm sorry, Councilman. Could you please identify yourself, title, and department? It's a new department. I apologize.
Assistant Chief Umpenhauer, Warwick Fire Department.
Thank you. Councilman.
thank you. So, how does this particular item, which is asking for an additional $24,000, and this request, if approved, will increase the total award to $72,000, how does that dovetail in with your first bid of 2022-082? It has the same language in the position paper. The fire department is requesting 612 authorization, et cetera, et cetera. You get a different bid number, and you're asking to increase that by $24,000 to a total of $72,000. So what's the difference between these two?
So the way that Motorola works, Motorola Public Safety radios are sold exclusively by Motorola Solutions, and that's what I came up earlier with. But the programming specific to the state of Rhode Island communication system, which is the network we're on, and the installation of those radios into the vehicles and into where they belong is done by Cybercom, which is a Warwick provider. So Motorola doesn't install and program and initialize the radios. They just sell the hardware, and this vendor would take that hardware and install them into the vehicles. So this is the remainder of the grant award that we requested earlier. This is the $24,000. That brings it up to the total of the grant award.
In the FEMA grant.
Correct.
So, this one is coming out of the same budget account as.
Correct. It would come out of the same budget account, but we already have a contract with Cybercom for our day-to-day radio use. So they're actually the only Rhode Island service provider for Motorola radios on the Rhode Island network.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman. Any questions from members of the committee? Further questions from members of the council? Questions from members of the public? Thank you. May I have a motion on PCR 12922?
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. May I have a motion for acceptance of the minutes for the committee meeting held on October 17th?
So moved.
I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. PCR 130-22, resolution relative to abatements. Good evening. If you could please identify yourself, name and department.
Neil Dupuy, tax assessor.
Thank you so much, Neil. Go ahead.
This month, we have abatements for you in the amount of $25,462.05. You will notice the format is a little bit different. We did upgrade the Munis software, so the report is a little bit different in format, but contains all the basic information, probably a little more clarity in terms of exactly what's being abated. But if you have any questions, I will answer them.
Councilman Gebhardt.
Thanks, Director. Just the first one, 2428392 Inc. It says tangible over assessed. Can you just explain what that
Certainly. So this is FYE over at the Warwick Mall. And initially, they hadn't filed their declaration. Annually, they have to file with the city what they declare their property to be worth. In this case, it didn't happen, so my tangible appraiser had estimated it. After they filed the appeal, we did get the subsequent report. We went out and did an inspection, and this is the result.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilman. Any questions from members of the council? Councilman Lattisaw.
Thank you, Chairman. Hello, Director. How are you?
Very good. About yourself?
Good. Thank you. You just struck a note with me when you said someone has made changes and updates to the Munis report. Could you send me tomorrow a copy of the Munis report to date, please?
Can you clarify? I'm not sure what you're looking for.
The entire copy of the Munis report. You were just saying that there's been some changes and updates made to it.
The city went through a whole system upgrade and conversion. So
Okay.
the reports that are available in the current version are a little bit different from the ones that we had available in the past.
Okay.
So it's not any different data. It's just the format of the report is slightly different from what it was.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions from members of the council? Questions on PCR 130-22 from questions from members of the public? May I have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. PCR 117-22, a resolution relative to issuing requests for proposals on the American Rescue Plan Act community projects. Council President McAllister.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman,
Good evening, sir.
Thank you. So this is the first proposal for these community projects. The city council in the last budget appropriated $1.8 million of American Rescue Plan Act funds for ward projects. This will be a standing agenda item once a month for the city council. So if members of the community do not see the projects that they are looking for proposals on this agenda, it could be coming in future agendas. Please just reach out to your individual council person. This evening, what is before us is the first step in this project, in this process. So any items that the city of Warwick is going to purchase, it needs to go out to bid. So this is the first step in that, where we are going to, if this were to pass, it directs the Director of Public Works and the purchasing agent to develop and issue requests for proposals regarding these following community projects. So this is the first step in that. We are going to request that the departments go out to bid on these particular projects. Then the bids will come back. Then they will come before the council again with numbers attached to them. Here are the bids, and then the council will vote on those individually. So this is the first process of that. Again, this is going to be a standing item on the agenda moving forward. And this evening, I have two for Ward 7 while I have the mic. One is to install and purchase and install welcome signs and landmark place cards across Ward 7, especially Apponaug Village, about the history of the village. There's a lot of historical buildings, historical sites around, and we're looking to identify those with some nice signage. And second is a request for my friends from the Apponaug Baseball Complex, which is to repair this sprinkler system, install a new shed, and purchase infield draggers and screen mats. And I know the league is here this evening. When it comes to public comment, they may want to speak on that. So those are the two requests from Ward 7. Again, this is just to get them out to start the process, to put them out to bid, and then they will come back to us again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I think you set a good precedence right there. With the permission, just for knowledge within the public, I will briefly run down the identifiers, the bullet points of each ward, the requests made using this ARPA funds for community development. Ward 1, Bishop Park, new ground equipment and benches. Ward 3, Sand Pond stabilization of access path and beach, and repairs the stairs slope on southeast side of path and Terrence. Ward 3, Sandy Lane, installation of heightened visual crossing paths at the Warwick Public Library, Cooper Building, Sandy Lane Apartments, and Thayer Arena. Ward 4, Hoxie School, resurfacing the basketball court, as well as Ward 4, Connecticut Point, purchase installation of an octagonal gazebo pavilion, a 30-foot in diameter. Ward 5, Del Judas Park, purchase and installation of playground, swing set, landscape, and ADA compliant, and replacement of park benches. Ward 5, main channel installation of 2 park benches. Ward 6, City Park, revamp the dog park. Ward 6, City Park, install benches in all softball dugouts. Ward 7, Village, nope, you already read Ward 7. I'm going to skip over that, Mr. President. Ward 8, Pontiac Park, purchase and install black ionized deluxe IH series 25-foot flagpole shoe base and anchor bolt 5 inches. Ward 9, Robert Avenue, install a boat launch. And then finally from Ward 9, Sleepy Hollow Farms, install tennis courts. These are the identified projects from working with the application process and individual city council members. I will open conversation and questions up to the members of the committee. Councilman Gebhardt.
I just wanted to clarify on the two that are under Ward 9. I will work with purchasing and DPW to clarify the scope, but at Robert Ave, there's already a boat launch. The request is on some repairs. to it. And the same on Sleepy Hollow Farms. There are already tennis courts there. It's really repairs is the nature of the ask here. But as we get into the details with the departments, I'll make sure that that's clear.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Questions from members of the council? Councilman Lattisaur.
Thank you, Chairman. So I just want to clarify something. It's my understanding that this is sort of like our first bite at the apple on this, right? Excuse me, because I have a whole list of items that, may qualify or not qualify, but right now I believe we're just kind of limiting it to 2 or 3 items.
Yes, yes, Councilman, that is
Thank you.
correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from members of the council? Thank you. Any questions, comments from members of the public? Questions, comments from members of the public? Pertaining to PCR 117-22? Thank you. Excellent. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Jim Tweed. I'm the current president of the Apponaug Babe Ruth Baseball League, an outgoing president, as we have our 2 new presidents for the next season joining us as well as our vice president. This pertains to the fields right behind City Hall. We have 3 fields on this complex, and we are really in need of some additional support in terms of maintenance. We have some damage to our sprinkler system to maintain the irrigation. We also have some need of additional equipment, including a shed, which has been rotted and deferred maintenance. The cost of maintaining it would actually be more than replacing it, based on the estimates we have. And then finally, as you might imagine, to maintain the infield as well as the grassy areas, we need updates to our equipment in terms of field draggers and screens to make sure the playing surface is safe for all of our players. So I'm here to, of course, to advocate on behalf of the league. We have 300 plus children from the ages of 4 to 12 who annually participate in the baseball league. We've been growing, and we're excited about the future of the league, as really this has become the nucleus of recreational activity in the city of Warwick. Certainly, we're also one of the few leagues in the area right behind City Hall. So,
Thank you so much. Thank you. Are there any other questions, comments from members of the public? Thank you. May I have a motion? Oh, I apologize. Go ahead.
right.
Please identify yourself.
I'm Judy Cobden. I'm up here as a resident of Warwick. I just have a question. What are you going to do to the dog park?
Correction, I'm sorry, ask again.
One of the item numbers that came up was for the dog park in
Yep.
City Park in Buttonwoods.
If Councilwoman, would you like to answer, or would you like me to read verbatim?
I'm just curious. I'm an avid user of that dog park.
It says revamp, so it looks like the councilwoman is advocating to have that dog park, knowing how much it's utilized. Councilwoman, I'll let you speak for yourself.
Yes, I've got a lot of people that called, and first of all, I had it already down to do the dog park.
Great.
I've been trying to do the dog park with the last 3 mayors, telling them that maybe Public Works could divide the field in half and work on one field and do it all over and let the dogs go here, and then when it's fixed, then we do the opposite. And no one seemed to do it. So when this came up, this was the first thing that hit that pad, that we're going to address the dog park. And we didn't get all the numbers. Some of the numbers that the constituents gave were way off. They're talking about mulch, and mulch is like $38 a yard. And we had over 50 yards just for the dog park. And I don't think that's going to cover the whole dog park. But there were a lot they wanted some things that we can do in-house, trim the trees, fix the gate, the fence.
Yes.
But they wanted some benches because they got those chairs there. They're disgusting. So there was a list. But right now, we didn't give them a whole list. We just told them that's the project. And we're going to add on to that list. So it's going to be a top-notch dog park again. So we're working on it. We don't have anything in black and white yet.
I'll just make a suggestion. Definitely don't put mulch in there. That's not going to solve the problem. The problem is that it's all sand. And if we could somehow put
No, they're gonna do plantings.
we need to put
Yeah.
grass down.
And, yep, they're gonna put grass down. They also talk about shade on the other side because there's no trees over there. Somebody even suggested, about like, I don't know, not a shed, but some kind of cover also, if it was raining, they could go under that, you know. So there was a lot of suggestions, and we're gonna work on it. But we're gonna make sure, we gotta see how much money we're gonna be using.
I would aim, if you're going to spend money, on putting grass down.
Yes,
And fixing,
definitely.
and fixing the gate. The rest of it are like extras.
Yeah.
But if we could have grass, it would make
Yeah,
a huge
because it's hard for
difference.
seniors to walk on that sand.
I track it. We all, our dogs and their humans track it into their cars, into the house,
Yeah.
onto the furniture. And I don't know if you've ever taken a drive out to the South Kingston Dog Park. That was done with volunteers raising money, and it is absolutely beautiful. And what they do is once a week from a certain time, I think it's on Wednesday, they close it for a few hours to maintain it. But I would definitely not waste funds on anything, but first thing first is put grass down.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. If you ever want to talk about it, I'm here.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other further comments on PCR 11722 authorizing the city to look into doing these projects? Yes.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Council Chair. Yes, so was
Please identify your name.
Michelle Comar, thank you.
Thank you.
Ward 1. What was the cap for each council person to work within to find a project?
There are 9 wards. It's $1.8 million.
So that's 200 per
Yes.
council person. Okay. Through the chair, Councilman Foley's project, I'm not familiar with that location of that park. Number one. And number 2 questions, I can save you a little time, is the $200,000 needed in total, or do you have some left over for another project?
Councilman?
200,000 is total for the ward. The process is, this is going to go to DPW. They're going to get us, a list of what to do, what is listed there, what will it cost. I've already reached out to the people who presented this and said, I want a priority list, because if we can't do everything, I don't want to decide what's number one. You tell me. And then depending on how many submissions we get, we'll allocate accordingly. Where Bishop Park is, the best way I can describe it, if you think of Ward 1, you have Fair Street, Atlantic, the Parkway, and Warwick Avenue. Bishop Park's almost dead center there. So it's used amazingly by the people in that part of the ward. And I'm being very polite. It's sad what the playground is right now. It's lack of equipment. It's well cared for. The people use it abundantly, but it needs some additions to it. So
Okay.
that's what we're looking at. But that's the best way to describe the location of
Got it.
the park.
Thank you. And do you envision the whole 200,000 needed for that park, or will you
I
have
have no
leftovers?
idea yet. The process is DPW will get back to us and say, based on what we've been asked, this is what we think will the cost be, but there's 2 costs. The cost for the equipment and the cost for installation. So for those reasons, I'm sorry, I keep doing that. Yeah. So the process is to come back and say, okay, we can buy X number piece of equipment, but it's also then going to cost Y to install those equipment. And our plan, I don't know about my colleagues, my plan is not to use all the funds in one project. I have a list that have come into us. This is the first one that we're starting the process with.
Okay, and will you be taking more recommendations? How are you reaching out to the public?
I have no, your turn.
We've had an extensive application process that was posted on the website as well as posted in the paper. And there was also numerous outreach. I'll speak, for me, there was outreach. I knew that there were projects from talking to constituents over the 6 years I've been in council that I knew that they wanted to get done. And so, there's going to be a lot of these projects. Let me just clarify this, Ms. Komar. A lot of these projects are being, this right here is for us to vote to say, okay, we want to look at doing these projects with this amount of money. On my two projects will be hybrid. I'm hoping, my goal is to be hybrid. So between grant money as well as the ARPA money on the city side, that's where, and then if there's any left over, we will then look further at the applications and see what we can do.
Thank you,
Councilman, I'm
Councilman.
sorry.
Oh, thank you, Councilman, but I'm more interested in Ward 1 because that's where I live.
Well,
And I appreciate, you sound like you've got some good plans going, and if you're looking at grant money to supplement, because of course we want to get bang for the buck. But I'm a little concerned that there's only this one project for $200,000.
Well,
I don't know what else is behind it.
Ms.
and
Komar,
how
I
much
want to
it
make
costs.
clear that there was an application, so there was outreach. I would encourage you to sit down with your council person and discuss that as far as each individual project. But this right here is purely just to start the process rolling so we can get these projects going. This is not the final all, do all. This is the start the process. Councilman Foley.
Oh, all right, thank you. This is the only one that's on the docket tonight. There were at least a half dozen projects presented to me. This is the first one that I'm moving forward in the process. It's not the only one. It is not by any merit, the $200,000 is not earmarked for this. The triangle is what I call it. There's a playground and ball field there that has asked for funds. There in Tuxet Village, there was a project that asked for funds. I'm sitting down Monday night. I'm going to Asprey Boathouse for the Gatsby of people to talk to them. So I've been out there. I've been knocking on doors. And if I may, Councilman McAllister, Council President McAllister was with me, I believe, the night we talked to constituents about Bishop Park. I was knocking on doors. So I've been out there asking, and like you said, it's been advertised in the paper, it's been on the city website, and you can, is it still up in the live? Yeah, it's still up in the live. Go jump on the city website and apply, because we get all the applicants and all the recommendation or suggestions, and then we look at them and move them forward. I reach out, and my liaison reach out and ask for more information if we need it, to clarify it a little bit, and then we bring it forward. This is just the first one that's being brought forward.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. I'm here to make a suggestion, because I've been going to council meetings and harbor management plan meetings and other commission meetings. We've lost facilities in the city over time. And specifically, our harbor management plan, and one update, they just said, we just don't have money, so we're just deleting these access ways, parking areas, boat ramps, or whatever. So I was hoping that, yeah, it's great to reach out to the general public. They're going to be focused in on their specific locale and what they utilize. But for the general good of the public, I would check, just making this suggestion, with the Harbor Management Commission and what facilities they've recently closed in the last 10 years or so that just need a little help and they never got it. Also, maybe the Wildlife Conservation Commission, maybe the Land Trust, because I like to see money that reaches out. I know this is designated by ward, but I really would hope that it gets out to the greater public and not just one neighborhood group. And we've got legislation on the docket tonight about public rights of way. Just falls in sync with that. We're losing things quickly. They're disappearing, and because we don't have money to maintain them. So please reach out to those commissions. They may have some good insight for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Gebhardt, did you have a?
I was just gonna, Ms. Kumar, before you step away, I was just going to let you know, I did just send you by email a link to the form online, if you wanted to add anything.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other questions, comments from members of the council? Question, comments from members of the public? Question, comments from members of the public? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman.
Yes, thank you. If you would indulge, given the situation with this walk-in cooler at Pilgrim, there's a couple of concerns that I still have, and I would like to know if I could ask a couple more questions now, or
On which one? I'm so sorry, Councilman.
that's okay. On item 3, 2023-235, now PCR 132-22.
Oh, it has a PCR.
It does.
Yes, it does, sir. It does.
So
So
it does. What I'm asking is if I could ask another question or two now, or would you prefer everybody just waits around until it comes to the council floor so I can ask those pertinent questions?
Okay. So the recommendation is finish the agenda, and then if we need be, we can recall items. Councilman. Thank
All
you,
right,
sir.
Thank you.
PCR 12322. This is a long one. Bear with me. Resolution authorizing the city of Warwick to issue not to exceed $56 million general obligation bonds, notes, and other evidences of indebtedness to finance the construction, renovation, improvement, alteration, repair, landscaping, furnishing, and equipping of schools and school facilities throughout the city, to fund the capital improvement program for a fiscal year 2022 to 2020 through 2026, subject to approval of state housing aid at a reimbursable rate or state share ration of not less than 35% at the time of issuance, and provided that the authorization shall be reduced by the amount of certain grants received from state bond proceeds from the State of Rhode Island Department of Education or from the State of Rhode Island School Building Authority. Council President McAllister.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't make you read that again. Thank you. This is authorizing the bond, the school bond from 2020. So I just want to make sure everyone understands where we're at. This has already been on the ballot. It's already been approved. And this is to continue the work that the school department has been doing over the summer. I know a number of projects have been completed. This is going to continue with this, but they need to come to us to get the release of these funds. So that's where we're at this time. Mr. Chairman, I believe we have the finance director for the city, and we also have the superintendent is here, and representatives of the school department as well, that can answer any questions that the members of the council or the public have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just for continuance purposes, I'm going to ask the speakers, any speakers that choose to speak on behalf of the city or the school department that are doing the presentation, to please speak from the podium to my right or your left, and so we can leave the front podium up for any questions through the chair. Reading this, is there Mr. Director, do you have something to state?
Well, you went through this with the 40 million that had passed in 2018. This is the next bond issue that was approved in 2020. I will say this, what was approved was $56 million. And the school department can talk, they have $36.7 million worth of projects to go. Ready to go, signing contracts, and Steve or Tim or the superintendent could talk about that starting in December, so they need this authorization. We're not about to issue the bonds. In fact, the way the housing aid formula works, you want to get near completion before you issue the bonds so that you get reimbursed on them. I will say that in the 40 million, they did 3 tranches. The council approved, I think, 6 million one time, 4 million another time, 24 million. From flexibility point of view, I'm more comfortable having the whole 56 million. We'll see what the actual prices are. I don't have any major objection if you amended it to limit it to what the projects they have. This gives us a little more flexibility we'll probably be advancing from the general fund. We may even do bond anticipation notes until the market calms down. I can tell you that we sold $26 million in bonds in February. Remember, it was the day of the Russians invaded Ukraine at 2.41%. I know the state sold bonds last week competitively at about 4.1%. So that's what's happened. And we'll see how the market plays out over the next year or so. So I've talked to the mayor, and I would prefer having the full authorization to see how. I don't think this is typically what's done in other communities. This council has been more restrictive than some other places. That's fine, either way. But right now, we're here for requesting 56 million. We probably issue around 36 million sometime in the next year, and then a year later, the remaining amount. So those are the only comments I have. And as you pointed out, this Warwick Public Schools are here in force.
Thank you, Director. Superintendent, is there someone you'd like to designate to speak on behalf of the projects? Thank you. So what I'll do is, if you don't mind standing ready, or sitting ready. Yep. What I'll do is I'll open it up to the committee and the council on any questions they may have. So just to verify, Mr. Schaefer, I apologize, see you walking away. You said that you feel it would be beneficial to release the 56 million on this evening.
I'm comfortable with it.
authorize.
I've had no suspicion that there's anything wrong. It gives us more flexibility. Everyone talks about prices going higher, and maybe Steve can give you comfort as to where we are on the pricing of these projects. But either way, I'm more comfortable with the 56 million. It gives us more flexibility, but I'm not going to fall on a sword if you want to amend it.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Well, I tell you, in the 2 years I've worked with you, I've come to truly trust and kind of even admire your knowledge, your in-depth research. So me personally, I'm gonna entrust what you're saying, and because if there's someone who understands the flexibility and the ups and downs of the market as well as the municipalities, I'm looking at the man right now. So thank you, and I'll open it up. Members of the committee, are there any questions you have? Councilman Gebhardt? I'm sorry. I apologize. Do you mind? Council President McAllister.
Thank you. I just want to, Peter and I had talked about this previously when we've done this is the second bond we've done in the last 4 years with the previous councils. We've not released the full amount because we just wanted to make sure everything was moving along and having that extra check. And I do have to say that I've been the last few years, everything is going. You have it on the website. You've been keeping us updated on the projects. And so I am supportive of giving that, which is a little bit of a change. I did like that check before. I think they have a track record now, the administration, of they're hitting their marks. They're moving these projects forward. That was why we originally started, or at least my thinking of when we were doing 9 million at a time, 40 million, not the full amounts. But I understand where the administration is coming from and the school department on asking for the full amount this evening. And I do have to say they have a track record now the last few years with these bonds of really getting these projects out and really upgrading our elementary and middle schools. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilman Gebhardt.
So just for anyone following along at home, so just because we issue or approve this resolution, obviously the monies would become tied up and borrowed, and we'd start paying on them as they were spent, right?
No, typically we're going to get very close to completing the projects before we issue the bond so that we can get full reimbursement from the state. That's what we did this last time. But this resolution also gives me the authority to do bond anticipation notes, which we might have to do, or just to advance from the general fund until we issue the bonds. And really, they don't have any authority to sign any contracts unless you approve something that that meets the threshold of what their the projects that they've got, the building committee has approved.
Okay, and then maybe we could hear from Mr. Gothberg just on your plans for this chunk and how you move it along.
Steve Gothberg, Director of Construction and Capital Projects for the Warwick School Department. So if you could repeat your question, Councilman Gebhardt?
Sorry, just in terms of this this latest tranche and what we would be voting on releasing today, what are the plans and what's the timing?
For next summer, we have a very large list. Number one, we are going to do the remaining projects for the $40 million bond. There are just the ADA projects at 5 schools and 5 ADA playgrounds. That is the last year for the $40 million bond. It's the 5th year. And we have to complete those to get our reimbursement. So we're going to wrap those up. But what we've found is that previously we were doing one project in the school, trying to get equity throughout the district. That wasn't working. What we found was that where there was some overlap, we would go in, we do something, and we would run into trouble because it got in the way of what we were trying to do next. So what we're trying to do is, in the $56 million bond, we hit a school, and say we hit, let's talk about Hoxie. We're going to do out of the $40 million bond, we do the ADA upgrades, we do the ADA playground, and then we run over to the $56 million bond. We hit the building envelope, the new heating system, which is the HVAC, and then we do the electrical upgrades that are planned for the classroom. So we combined all those projects, get that done in that school, one shot, one summer, get it done, and we have 6 schools that we plan to do that in, where we're combining the remaining $40 million bond items and hitting the $56 million bond, combining them, getting them done, impact the school one time.
Thank you. And so I'm looking at your document here that covers about 30, I think the bottom line was about 33.
And the 56 million, it's 33,656,382.
Okay. And could you just give us an example of a reason or an opportunity you might find that would justify freeing up the additional $20 million up to the 56 cap above what you have projected here at 33?
Well, one of the problems I think we all have found is supply chain issues. So one of the things we're doing is doing the design work well in advance so we can bid early, purchase early, and instead of waiting 42 weeks and not being able to finish a project, we order it as early as possible. Order the long lead time items, HVAC equipment, that type of stuff. That's usually in electrical equipment is another thing that is really been long lead time. And it gives us the opportunity to design early, bid early, order early.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman McElroy.
Yeah, I have one question. You're talking about Hoxie doing it all in the summer.
Correct.
Why do you have to wait till the summer? The school's empty now. Why do you have to
Councilman,
wait
could
for
you
the-
speak up, please? I'm sorry. Could you speak up?
Why do you have to wait for the summer?
Hoxie is not empty as far as I know. Hoxie, the kids are in school. So these are
Oh,
big,
so-
these are probably, Sherman is the one that's empty, and we're working on that now.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Ricks. Oh, I apologize, Councilman Ricks. Councilman Lattisaur. Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman.
I want to.
So I have a few questions for Mr. Gothberg and also a few for Mr. Schaefer. When we first approved, I say we, the city council, first approved these $80 million in bonds some time ago. One of the things that we had said was we were requiring updated reports as you were completing projects, updated reports with the numbers, where you were standing with those budgets at the time compared to the monies that we approved in various stages. I don't recall receiving any of those reports recently. I could be mistaken, but I don't recall seeing any reports speaking to the amounts of monies that were spent in the last bond approval we released.
What we have been doing was posting it on our website, and we had a complete transparency report. And up until this past spring, we've been doing that. We are a little behind because we just went to a new website, and we have to move the construction website to the new website. And with the amount of work that we did this summer, we did fall behind. But by the end of this month, the transparency report will be back up and up to date, and everybody can look at it on the website. So you go to the Warwick Public School website, go to the construction part, and everything will be right there, plus photos of progress, completed work, and that's what we've done in the past, and I believe most people have looked at that. Sorry you did not know about it.
Well,
If you would
admittedly,
like
I'm not big on, getting into these websites.
Okay.
But also, in the past, we've actually been receiving the spreadsheets. We, on the city council. I know I've gotten them in the past, and I recall favorably commenting on those as well.
You did.
Because they were very helpful and very beneficial. And we were able to see simply, how you were, and you were staying on track. It has been quite some time that I have not seen any of those reports. And to be quite honest with you, I don't know where you stand with the monies that we've recently released. And that does become concerning to me, because that was an agreement, handshake agreement that we had, that the council would be kept up to date on that. And that, to me, does not mean I got to go chasing on your website or anyone else's website to find that.
We'll be happy to get it to you by the end of the month. The transparency report will be up to date, and we'll get it to the entire council.
So in the last release of bond monies, was there monies included in those projects for Sherman School and Warwick Next School?
There is.
And what is the status with Sherman School regarding all of the additional things that, you happen to find there with the mold, et cetera, et cetera? Where does Sherman School stand right now? And I'm asking for Sherman and Warwick Neck, obviously, because it's in my ward. Where does that stand right now with Sherman School? Let's start with that one.
Starting with Sherman. Sherman is well underway. We have figured out the mold issue. It was mitigated. We found that the mold was caused by groundwater and also by overgrowth of the surrounding vegetation. So that's all been cut back. New drainage structures are going in. We are confident that the mold issue has been taken care of, plus the new HVAC system will take care of any humidity within the building. We have long lead time items with Sherman. The HVAC equipment will be coming in March. So we're looking to reopen Sherman September of 2023. And Warwick Neck is slated for next year. Warwick Neck has site project, roofing project, building envelope, which is doors, windows, some painting, some repairs of the masonry, the HVAC system, and electrical upgrades, plus the ADA project from the first bond.
So Sherman School is scheduled to reopen in 2023.
September, correct. We could open it earlier, but it doesn't make sense to move the kids mid-year. It's just going to create havoc. So we believe that would best thing to reopen in September.
Sure. I have concerns with Warwick Next School because monies were allocated to do the things that you just mentioned. And it's 1 year ago this month that I've met with a member of the school department at Warwick Next School with the principal. We took a tour of the interior of the school as well as the exterior of the school. The interior painting was supposed to be completed sometime shortly after the Christmas holiday vacation or something or other. And as of when I was in that building a couple of weeks ago, it still isn't completed. The curtains in the auditorium were supposed to be taken down and cleaned a year ago, and they're in the same condition as they are now. The exterior facade of that building is embarrassing. It is in terrible condition. The exterior facade right next to that $150,000 playground that was just installed next to Warwick Next School is in terrible condition. It is literally disintegrating, and that has not been corrected yet. So the monies have been appropriated out of that last approval that we have. And my question at this time is, why haven't these things been completed? It's a year this month that the meeting took place to get those things done, and they're still not done.
Well, the items that you're talking about are not under my purview, and it's not part of the bond, except for the exterior, which I just talked about, is scheduled for next summer. So I can't speak to one who you spoke to on that or what was promised. I know that Mr. Oliver and his team has been painting inside. They've done a lot of stuff over this past summer. I don't know exactly where they are with that. So that's all I can say to that.
You say it's not part of this bond.
That's
but
correct.
The questions I'm asking is regarding the performance history of the bond monies that you do have. And these repairs that we just spoke about were part of the bond history that you have.
The curtain, the interior painting, none of that is part of either bond. So
The exterior, you just talked about the exterior facade was part of the bond.
yeah,
and the
but
roof.
you have so many years to do things. So you can't do every school the first year. So we pick and choose what we feel the worst things, and we move ahead with those. So the $56 million bond, Warwick Next, one of the first schools to get something out of the $56 million bond. So they're scheduled for next summer. We have to design, we have to bid, we have to get a contractor on board, we have to order. So that is planned for next summer.
So for Warwick Next School, the plan from this 56 million is going to be for the roof. Is the exterior facade included as part of this as well?
There's some painting, and there is some, I know that there's some crumbling in the masonry, so there's some repair work scheduled for that.
There's a fair amount of that.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
there's
it,
some
actually.
corners, the way that building was built, I can't
Yeah.
speak to the design, I can only speak to repair.
How much money is left out of the last bond we released?
The amount that we are going to wrap up the bond with for next summer is $3,783,486. We've done well on previous bids, so there is some dollars left that we will combine and get some other projects done. But the remaining number is $3,783,486 projects to be completed.
And with that 3,783,000 that you still have unspent, will that complete all of the projects that you had presented to this council when we approved that previous bond?
It will.
And apparently the answer to my next question will be yes, meaning it'll be done on budget.
Yes, the first bond, everything came in very nicely. Second, as we move towards the second bond, I think we're all aware of the insane price increases. I know you've dealt with it in your business. So we may have to look at scope, and the building committee may have to decide on what is a priority project so that we don't go over budget on the school itself.
Mm-hmm.
Councilman, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to give everyone an opportunity to ask at least 2 questions, and then you have every right to follow through with more questions. Okay, sir?
So I've gone over my 3 minutes. Is that what you're saying?
No, not at all. I'm
Okay.
saying it's.
So then can I continue then?
I said that after I go to other council people who are patiently waiting to ask questions, I can then go back to you. So the second round. Thank you. I got to go to Councilman Ricks, Councilwoman, and then you. Thank you. Councilman Ricks.
Thank you. So I have a question for the finance director on this one. I'll start with a comment while the finance director comes up that we all see the news about inflation. We all see the Fed raising the interest rates. That was just announced that there is yet another 3/4 increase. So 4 of those in a row. It's a very different environment from last February. And yet, when it comes to the state, the condition of our schools, this is not some sort of decision that can entirely be based on the markets, as if we're sitting around the kitchen table and deciding, okay, how do we allocate our retirement investments? Should we be putting them in bonds? Should we be putting them in stocks? What's the market telling us? This is money that we have to spend in order to make sure that kids going to school now, kids going to school in the next couple of years, are going to be safe, warm, and dry with a roof over their head, with facilities that are in compliance with the ADA. These are all very necessary improvements that are on these lists. And at the same time, we as a city, we have a lot of different priorities going on here, a lot of different obligations that if the city is dropping the ball on one item or another, the consequences are pretty severe. So, reason I wanted to ask this question to the finance director is based on the best of our knowledge, the indications that the Fed is putting out there and the markets are indicating, and obviously we don't have a crystal ball. Nobody knows exactly what the state of the markets is going to be 3 months from now, a year, 3 years from now. But based on the best knowledge that we have, is it feasible for us, Warwick, in our financial condition, to be releasing this $56 million bond, and also potentially the bond for the 2 new high schools, if it is, of course, approved by the voters, given interest rates and the direction that it's going?
Well, we had a long-term period of low interest rates.
If you
And
wouldn't mind speaking into the mic and speaking up, please. Thank you, Director.
I'll just get closer. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. All I can say is, as recently as the last month, our financial advisor ran new numbers for me. We've run numbers at 4 and 4.5%. We've even run numbers at 5%. And even a month ago, I thought 5 wasn't even, in the range of possibility, but I think it is now. So there's no question now. The state's going to reimburse this on this at 35%. If something happens on the 350 million, there's a pledge of 50% or higher on certain parts of it. So there's no question that this has changed the dynamic and what it means on the debt service costs for the city. But when the people approved the 56 million, that wasn't part and parcel of the whole package. It was 56 million and with 35% reimbursement, and that's what we have before you. So there's no question, as I gave the example from last February to now, and the state's about the same credit as the city of Warwick, went from 2.4 to 4.1% over a 9-month period. So.
And given all of that, and understanding the importance of these priorities, I take it that the takeaway here is that this is not going to be easy, but this is a priority that the administration as well as the school department feels is necessary, and it's something that can work. Not going to be easy, but something that we can make it work.
Absolutely. It means a commitment on our debt service going forward that is higher than we might have thought a year ago. Absolutely. But other things have changed for the better in terms of real estate values and other things. So there's all kinds of things going on. But this is one of the negatives. Absolutely.
I appreciate that. And I know that the mic might not have picked up the first word of your response. Absolutely. And so I think that this is something that obviously we have to enter into with a very sober attitude. But at the same time, I'm going to be voting yes on this because the need is there. We can't be putting this off. And one way or another, the city is going to have to make it work. The city has to make this a priority. The city is making this a priority. The city says we can make this work, so we have to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Travis.
Yeah, this is for Mr. Goldberg. Now, I know you mentioned the playgrounds. There were 5 going to be done. What schools are those?
They are Greenwood, Toxie, Oakland Beach, Sherman, and Welk.
Okay.
John Brown Francis.
Because I thought we were told that Oakland Beach would have been done this summer. Now, I went to all the open houses, and one thing I was very impressed that you had signs basically telling us what was going to be done at each of the at the schools. But I don't think a lot of them got done the way it was, you had a list of things. This one was going to get a roof, this one was going to get something else. And I talked to other people. I'm just following up with something Councilman Lattisaw said. I don't think a lot of them were filled up. So, I mean, when they were told they were going to be done this summer and they're not done, to me, they're falling behind.
Well, I can't control supply chain. So when we plan to do the playgrounds for this summer, we were looking at 8 to 10 months for playground equipment to be delivered. So it was no way we're going to make it. So we rebid, we went out, we're ready to go for next summer. It's the best I can do. I cannot control, nor anybody else can control supply chain.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Is there any other council person before I go back to Councilman Lattisaw? Councilman Lattisaw, you have the floor again. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gothberg, I would just point out that I would stand corrected on that report that I was speaking of earlier, but perhaps it's been going to the wrong email because it has been brought to my attention that those reports have been going out. So perhaps I need to speak to someone about what email it's going to.
I will check with Mrs. Canoyer to make sure that we get the right email.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, you give us to the end of the month, though, to make sure that we can redo and make sure our transparency report is up to date, if you don't mind.
I have no problem circling back if
Thank you.
someone can show me the evidence. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a question for Mr. Schaefer.
Mr. Schaefer, if you would identify yourself since you're out the mic.
Peter
again.
Schaefer, Finance Director, City of Warwick.
Thank you, sir. Councilman.
So, Director, today the feds announced the 0.75% increase in the interest rates. What is today? What would the bond interest be on this $56 million today? Forget about what the feds just announced today.
Just a little over 4%.
Over 4%. 4% of the 56 million.
Yes.
Okay, so
on a full 56 million, that would be annual debt service costs of $5 million, and then reimbursement of around 35% of that. So around annual debt service of a little over $3 million a year for 20 years.
And with that 0.75% increase today, how much is that going to increase it?
Well, remember that's on short-term interest rates. Long-term interest rates are not going up. We're talking 20-year bonds. So clearly there's some movement, adverse movement based upon the change by the Federal Reserve, but it's not 0.75% on long-term debt.
So it's 0.75% that they announced today. They also announced two smaller increases. It appears to me that their goal is to bring this interest up to 6%. That's just what I think, from what I know.
But you understand, we issue tax-exempt bonds here, so that.
So 6% is going to impact the interest per year, right, that they pay. You can talk about spreading it out over 20 years. What the taxpayers are interested in hearing is, what is it going to cost them this year and next year and the year after? That's what they're interested in hearing. You know, we can tell them, it's spread out over 20 years. It's not going to be this, it's going to be that, best case, worst case scenario. That doesn't tell the taxpayers what is their tax bill going to be. What is their tax rate going to be? That's what they want to know. And that's what they're not being told. So 6%, you can categorize it as spreading out over 20 years. I understand it. But it's still going to have a yearly impact. That yearly impact on the taxpayers' pocketbooks is going to be greater at 6% than it is at 4%.
Absolutely.
And next year, let me back up. This interest rate we're talking about, that would only be on the monies that they actually draw down on, correct? Not the entire 56 million.
Well, we would probably use advances from the general fund and bond anticipation notes until the projects were near completion. So that we wouldn't issue long-term debt until we were near completion. That's the way we would structure the deal.
So you'll issue short-term debt, and short-term debt now is I'm sorry.
Not for tax-exempt
I believe
debt.
it's 4.75% today.
Yeah, but not for tax-exempt debt. It's much
It's what?
lower. Not for tax-exempt debt, which is what
Okay.
we would do. Be
So
much lower.
tax-exempt debt is less,
Probably under 3% right now.
under 3. And when this goes up 0.75%, how does that 0.75%, what does that mean to tax-exempt debt then? How much of that 0.75% will be tax-exempt debt?
You know, I really would want I talked to my financial advisor, who's much more experienced on what different maturities, how the different maturities are affected, 20 years, 10 years, 5 years. I wouldn't want to stick my neck out and give you an exact example, but it would certainly be a lot less than the 4.75% that we're talking about at the federal funds rate now. So even today, because we issue tax-exempt debt.
And if we were to approve the entire $56 million, and then on top of that, let's just take a speculation that the voters approved the $350 million. You're looking at somewhere around $406 million in bonding. How does that affect our ratings?
How does it affect our what?
Our ratings.
Well,
we're a AA rating right now, I believe.
Right.
Wouldn't that AA rating be in jeopardy if both this bond we're here for tonight and the bond that is on the ballot, if both of those were to pass, wouldn't that put that AAA rating in jeopardy for future borrowing?
AA. You know, it's a good question, and I asked the guy at Standard & Poor's we deal with when we were dealing with the $350 million issue, and he wouldn't give me an answer. He said, we don't give prospective responses to that. Clearly, they're looking at our total debt load. They're looking at other obligations, and our pension situation is much better than it was 10 years ago. We've still got the OPEB liability that they look at, and we hope to have a solution for that for you in the next few months. But there's no question that they would look at it adversely. No question about it.
You know, it's most unfortunate that no one, including the folks you just mentioned, are willing to give those type of numbers to the taxpayers. All this mumbo jumbo that we go through here on the council floor, to the average person, it does not relate to dollars and cents to them. It does not. Your best case, worst case scenario, as an example, in 2027, a $50 million deficit. What does anyone think that means to the average taxpayer? I don't think they realize the severity of that deficit and the impact of their taxes. And that is most unfortunate, that people go into the voting booths and vote kind of like a blindfold on.
Well, all I can say, Councilman, is, and you've seen the disclosure notice that the Board of Canvassers issued, and I worked on that, as did our bond
Oh,
lawyer
I'm
and
familiar
our
with the Board of
financial
Canvassers.
advisor.
Thank
And-
you. I am very familiar with them.
And the estimate was that that would be 5% on the tax levy.
With this $50 million bond request, it was brought to at least my attention earlier today that it's not stipulating in here that these repairs to any of these school buildings need to be approved or should be approved by RIDE. And I'm curious why that isn't in there. I don't know if you need to answer that, or if Mr. Gothberg
I think
or
Steve's the
someone
better person
else.
to respond to the approval process.
Okay.
With RIDE on these projects.
What is the question, Councilman?
Why in this resolution, it's based upon the House Bill 8041 that was passed by the state. And it references section 15. I'll just read it to you because I'm going to be looking to make a motion to amend this to include this. It says, this act shall constitute an enabling act of the General Assembly that is required pursuant to section 16-7-44. Any bonds, notes, or other evidences of indebtedness issued under this act for school projects shall not be eligible for state aid reimbursement pursuant to 16-744 unless the school projects described herein have been approved by RIDE. And I think it would be important to include that language into this so that it's very specific, so that at some point RIDE cannot come back and say, sorry, you don't meet the criteria, and therefore we're not giving you, forget about the 52%, we're not giving you the 35%.
But every project that we do, and if you look at right now, with say there's 5 projects at Warwick Neck included for next summer, each project has to be submitted to RIDE 3 times for their approval. So I have to go for schematic design, we have to go for design development, and we have to go for construction documents. And without approval on that, we do not get reimbursement. So every project we do, we submit to RIDE 3 times for their review. And that's part of what we do. It's part of my mandate as Director of Construction and Capital Projects, that I do that. If you want to include that in that, that's fine. It's what we do anyway. I would not do a project without submitting it to RIDE 3 times for their approval.
To protect the school department, to protect the taxpayers, I think that it would be important to include that, because I know in government, regardless of submitting something 3 times, doesn't mean that it still doesn't get messed up.
No, I
Believe
get
me, I know what I'm
approvals.
talking about.
I have tracking of all approvals. It's a website, and you cannot move forward from one to the other without getting the approval. So it's all part of the process. It's something we do, something my department does every day, and we're in the midst of that right now with all the projects that we're talking about tonight. So if you would like that included, I have no.
So don't you agree? And this isn't any reflection on you or the school department. I'm looking at this as insurance for the school department, for the taxpayers. Would you agree that it certainly doesn't do any harm to include this, and that it would, to some degree, give you a little better insurance?
I have no problem with it.
Okay.
I just said that. If you want to
Mr.
include
Chairman,
that, I don't have a problem at all.
With all due respect, I would like to request that amendment be added to this particular item.
So I heard your request to have an amendment added. What I'm going to do first is, speaking on the general part that we have here, you spoke twice, or you asked questions and had comment twice at exceeding 10 minutes. I wanted to open it up to the public for conversation, then we can come back to that. Thank you. Is there any comments or questions, follow-up comments, questions from members of the council that did not go yet? And is there public comment or any comments, questions from members of the public? Thank you. Please identify.
Good evening again, Michelle Komar. And I'm going by experience with the sewer authority bonds, that the council gave permission for the sewer authority to seek bonds, and some of the conditions of the council's approval. So my questions are really geared towards potential amendments that you may consider. So I do like Council Lasser's amendment about seeking RIDE approval before monies are expended for construction. Department Head Schaefer gave a great table about bonds that were authorized, voted by the public, but not issued yet. And he cites this bill in the House, H8041, and that is related to that 56 million that we're talking about. This isn't the act states it's the enabling act. That's why we all can meet here today. And it's important because it sets the groundwork for what we can do to pursue this $56 million. And in it, it says that you cannot get reimbursed for a project without RIDE approval. And I'm listening to the conversations here tonight from the council, and what I'm hearing is what the school department says, what you're hearing is not always what you get. And I think the taxpayers need that protection. I think the city as a whole, we want to see successful projects for the money. So I am in favor of Council Lasser's amendment that approval from RIDE first be granted before construction money is expended. The other thing from the sewer authorities, bond resolutions from the council is reporting. And it sounds like there's a lack of reporting, or you got to go to a website. The WSA did a milestone spreadsheet of when engineering was done, different design phases, construction, bidding, the whole thing on a spreadsheet. So you could see the timeline of milestones and if they were meeting deadlines. Also, we need to know costs. Are they meeting the budgets? So there has to be some kind of reporting mechanism that the council's comfortable with to show that we're on target with the budget. So reporting should be an amendment to this. I have to ask this question. Was there a list of projects that went from the council to the General Assembly to ask the General Assembly to put this on the ballot? That was in 2020. So is there a list of projects that is now different, shifted? Because in the WSA resolutions for them to go and seek loans, there were some specific projects that the monies were designated for. And there was a stipulation in that resolution that if WSA used the money for anything else or wanted to, they had to come before the council for approval. And that's another taxpayer guarantee that what we voted for is being spent that way. So those are 3 amendments that I am suggesting. Was there a list of projects with the 2020 vote through to the council? Was something presented to the council?
Would you like to answer to that, please? Just identify yourself again.
Steve Gouthberg, Warwick Public Schools, Director of Construction and Capital Projects. Yes, there was a detailed list for each school. The only thing I can say, and we tried to hit those on the $40 million, we did hit them, and we actually did well enough to do additional projects and use some of the money within those schools, which RIDE dictates that we keep the money that's designated for that school in the school. So we've done that. We've been able to do a little extra work. With the $56 million bond, as I mentioned earlier, because of supply chain issues, 2022 costs are much different, even though we projected 3% a year escalation. We're up to the sometimes 30, 40, 50% escalation. We are going to have to look at maybe eliminating one project to do a more prioritized project. So if you take a look at a school, say we have a window project and an HVAC project. The HVAC project may be $500,000 to $750,000 come in over budget, and we may have to make a decision maybe not to do windows so that we can do the more prioritized project of heating and ventilation. So those are the things we looked at, but there is a list. It's been on the website. We'll make sure it's up when we get the website back up running so everybody can see what they were. And I don't make those decisions. The building committee would make the decision.
Thank you.
Okay, so what I heard was, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a list that was presented to the council, which is different than the list today.
No,
Same list?
same list.
Well, what is the 30 to 40% escalation involvement that he
That's
spoke
the
about?
cost of items purchased. Sometimes, I mean, if we look at what's happened over the last 2 years, something that cost $1 million, some now is costing $2 million.
Right, so the bond referendum was in 2020, and the 56 million was on that referendum. So is that going to cover all these projects, or did the school department scale down some projects, do some shifting around?
I think he answered that. He said that if they got to prioritize the project. So if there's one project that is going to be more, but it's a higher priority, they may have to scale down.
The way we do it, Councilman, is that we bid all the items, okay? But if we believe that, and we do believe that costs have escalated, we know they have, we will ask for each project within the bid to be itemized so we know what it is. so that we can make adjustments if we need to, and we bring it to the building committee. I may make a recommendation, but the building committee would make that decision. I would not.
Thank you.
Right, so in terms of pulling in this to an amendment, I think it would be great if there was a project list, if this is the updated one, and that any changes to that list, the school department come before the council for changes. That was how the WSA resolution was for them seeking loans. The $56 million, is that to be used all towards construction costs, or exactly what kind of costs are included?
There are soft costs and hard costs. Hard costs are the construction. Soft costs include design, contingency in case there are overruns, so that we can use that money to cover that. And what the RIDE dictates that we carry OPM, Owner's Program Manager, which my office takes payment out of it, so it does not come out of operating budget. So like my salary is strictly paid from bond.
Did you say salaries are included in the 56 million or not? I missed that.
It's included in the OPM portion of the soft costs of the $56 million.
So we're paying school department salaries out of the 56 million?
No, we're
Is
paying
that what I'm understanding?
the OPM, Owner's Program Manager, which is me, and all I do is work on the bond. So that either we pay a private firm to do it at much higher cost, or we pay my department to do it at a much lower cost. It's much more efficient and more money goes towards the projects.
I'm sorry, I'd never heard this reflected in a school budget before.
It's not in the school budget, it's in,
Well, salaries are.
right, and
Right.
mine comes under grant.
Okay, again, I'm just trying to make good amendments here. So I just wanted to know what the $56 million goes towards. So it could go towards salary for management to the school department, where we're paying salaries, I thought, out of our taxes, school department taxes that are dedicated to salaries. So just something to look at it at the budget when it comes up on how that is balanced off. I didn't realize that this money is going to pay for salaries for management.
Excuse me, I have to clarify. In any statement you made, did you state that?
Excuse me?
In any statement you made, did you state that the grant would go to salaries? Ms. Komar just said that.
I said that the OPM, right, there's three categories in soft costs.
Yes.
All right? The soft costs are design, contingency, and OPM, dictated by RIDE. So,
Yes.
so I don't do any other work except the bond work.
Right.
So my job is to manage the bond. So my salary is paid from the bond. It does not impact budget, local budget.
Right.
Okay, so that's the purpose of it, RIDE. That's the way RIDE wants it. So we either pay much more money to a private firm to do what I do.
Yep.
Or pay much lower cost for me to manage.
Thank you. So instead of a bold statement saying we're paying for all our managers to go ahead with this bond, it is a specific person who gets the grant, does the bond, or gets the bond and organizes and coordinates the bond.
Correct.
And that is where you get your salary from.
Correct. And,
Okay.
and once the bond is done, I do not have a job.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Komar, you've exceeded the 10 minutes. I'm going to ask you to go ahead, and I'm going to give you a moment to finalize your statements.
Okay, thank you. I think I might have caught it all. Besides the specific question about this $56 million bond, I am a general taxpayer with some financial background that I try to read documents, but I really don't have a grasp on what the tax increase is due to the 56 that we're talking about tonight, the 27, close to 27 approved by the council, I guess in November, and the 3,050 on the ballot. And in my mind, I need like a percentage. So our tax, this would be to the finance director question, I guess. What would our tax increase be? What can we expect? And I'm just looking at an estimate, like, can we expect a 25% increase? And that's not, because I only write one check. It's going to go to the city of Warwick. It's split up to the school department and the city side. What can we expect for a tax increase when I write that check?
That is something that I just don't see, with all the variables that go into what we do, what this council votes for, what we discuss. You're asking for a prediction that, or even a statement that'll go in, and I'm not willing to make that statement, and it's not something I'm going to venture into. I thank you for your time. I thank you for the questions. And
Okay.
I see that there's another speaker behind you ready to make
Okay.
a statement.
I do have one specific about $3 million debt.
Mrs. Komar?
Yes.
You,
Oh,
13
thank you.
minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I see Mr. Testa, the school committee, member of the school committee and the chairman of the building committee. Good evening, Mr. Testa.
Good evening.
Please understand, Mr. Testa, just before you speak, we're going to take a pause after Mr. Testa's comments. We're going to move forward, but we're also going to then, if we don't wrap this up, pause so that we can get into the council meeting. But thank you, Mr. Testa. Go ahead.
Thank you. David Testa, Narragansett Parkway. Vice Chair of the School Committee, Chair of the Building Committee. I'll be brief. To Councilman Lattiser, to your... Yes. Oh, sorry. Thought I was. Councilman Lattiser, to your point about amending this, I have no problem with it, but I think it already says it, because within the language of the PCR, it says, subject to approval of state housing aid at a minimum reimbursement rate or state share ratio of not less than 35%. So I think the language you're looking to put in essentially just reiterates what's already in there. Again, I have no position one way or the other. That's fine. If the council deems that as an added level of insurance, I just think it's redundant. And secondly, I would just say, as a member of the school committee and the building committee, I think the $40 million bond, I think Council President McAllister alluded to it. I think we've done very well with our projects as far as time and on budget. I think we do reporting. I think we do it pretty well. Granted, as Mr. Gothberg said, due to some staffing issues, we kind of fell behind, but we'll have that all brought up to speed. So, I wouldn't compare ourselves to any other department within the city, whether it's city run or quasi-city. I think we do a pretty good job with these bond projects. I think we have proven that we do a very good job with these bond projects. And I would just caution if you overly amend this, it'll become a Rube Goldberg type document that no one will be able to figure out. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Testa. Any other public comment? Any other public comment? So since this is the committee, I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion.
I move favorable action.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
The time is now 6:58 p.m. and the finance committee is closed. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Correction.
We had two administrative matter, or one administrative matter and another request.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you.
I can handle in the time we have prior here. The Councilman Sinapi has requested, if there's no objection from the committee, to return to the abatement in order to remove a few of them so he can abstain before the full council.
Okay.
No.
These are.
No objection.
Oh. That was a stern no. No objections. Okay, there's no objections here on the committee. Mr. President? Thank you.
So the request is to remove three particular abatements so that they can be voted separately. So they are item 107-019-110 regarding gauge in the amount of $415.20. Number 120-997 in regards to O'Donnell in the amount of $138.40. And number 10.
I'm sorry, hold on one moment. I apologize.
Bill, can you repeat that second one again?
Sure. The request would be to remove the three items as follows. Number 107-019-110 regarding gauge in the amount of $415.20. The second item is number 120997 in regards to O'Donnell in the amount of $138.40. And the third item is number 100-80191 regarding Truslow in the amount of $415.20. So the total on that would be $968.80. And if I'm correct, Madam Clerk, the PCR would be 133.22. So the cleanest way is there any objection from the committee from separating those items?
You said PCR 132. I actually have 133. Okay, thank you. So that would be PCR 133-22. And of that PCR, the amount is 968.80 from those three items.
Correct. So
Thank you.
Take any discussion on removing that and
Okay, so we've already reopened it. We're good to go. We can have discussion on this. Okay, thank you. And were you able to work in the updated amount for the original abatements?
yes. So before us now would be PCR 133.22, which is the abatements in the amount of $968.80 regarding Gage, O'Donnell, and Truslow.
Thank you. And since we approved the abatements in the amount previous, do I have to do another motion on the abatements with a new amount?
Let's handle this one and then we'll adjust
Understood.
the other
Okay.
amount.
All right. Is there any discussion from members of the committee? Discussion from members of the council? Discussion from members of the public? May I have a motion on PCR 133-22?
Move favorable action.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So that one would proceed. So the other item would be to amend the amount of PCR 130.22 from the original 25,462 and 5 cents to be 24,493 and 25 cents.
I'll move to amend as stated.
Could you repeat the amounts again, please?
The new total of PCR 130.22 would be amended to $24,493.25.
Thank you, Councilman. Go ahead.
I'll move to amend as stated.
Second.
We have a motion with a second. All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion as amended?
Any discussion?
Oh, I apologize. Is there any discussion from members of the committee, members of the council, members of the public? Thank you. May I have a motion as amended?
Move favorable.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The time is now 7:03. The Finance Committee is closed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We're just going to give about 5 minutes to set up, let the clerk and everyone get set up, and then we're going to have a special presentation right at the beginning of the council meeting. So we'll be back here in less than 5 minutes. Thank you.
Mr. President, I had requested to review piece. You're going to do it after? Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Good evening again, everyone. We are on general communications. This is the announcements of congratulations, condolences, and community events. We're going to have the council give any general communications they have, and then we're going to have a special presentation by Councilwoman Travis. So at this time for general communications, I have two. Just a reminder that the trash routes have changed starting this week. So if you were previously having your trash picked up on Tuesdays, it will now be picked up on Fridays. And if you were on Fridays, your trash is now being picked up on Tuesdays, and that started this week. And the second announcement is just a reminder that early voting is happening now, and you can go downstairs on City Hall and vote. So that is available. Councilwoman Travis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to have a moment of silence for Tori Andriozzi. Tori was a martial artist at our school since she was a little girl, and I know I must have seen it on TV. At 12 years old, she got hit by a drunk driver at 2:30 in the afternoon walking home from school. For the last 19 years, I saw her grow up in a wheelchair. She couldn't walk, she couldn't talk. She passed away Monday morning at 5 o'clock. So again, a drunk driver out there took a life of this young girl and had her do 19 years of living like that. Her mother's been awesome, and her work was always to fight against drunk drivers. So I'm just asking for a moment of silence.
Absolutely. If we can have a moment of silence. Thank you. Are there any other council members have anything under general communications? Okay, hearing none. Councilwoman Travis.
Yes, I would like to do a presentation to Kiara Enos. If she can come up. Am I saying your name right? Okay. Whereas Officer Kiara Enos started at the Rhode Island Police Academy in July 2020 and trained there for 6 months. Despite the COVID interruptions, she rose to the top of her class, securing the valedictorian spot. And whereas Officer Enos joined the Warwick Police Department in 2021, with her father, Stephen Enos, retired Rehoboth Police Chief, pinning her badge in the January 21st, 21 promotion ceremony at Veterans Middle School. And whereas Officer Kiara Enos was presented with the Mothers Against Truck Driver, MAD, Rookie of the Year for her DUI enforcements. And whereas Mothers Against Drunk Driving, MAD, has asked Americans not to drink and drive. And the real success depends on the effect and pledges of millions of individual Americans. Whereas Officer Enos made 59 DUI arrests from September 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022, the most in the state for a rookie officer. And now therefore be resolved, the mayor and the Warwick City Council urge our citizens of our community to spread the word that our city is committed to getting drunk drivers off the road and making our community a safer place for everyone. This resolution shall take effect upon passage. This is from the entire council, and we're very proud of you.
Great job. I can't believe, and of all times when we're fighting about drunk driving, it means so much. Okay.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. We also have a presentation from our state representatives that are here today. I want to thank Camille Vella Wilkinson and David Bennett, our state reps from Warwick, that are also here to congratulate you and offer you some congratulations. Representative.
Thank you very much, Council President. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, my esteemed colleagues, brothers and sisters in government, the Warwick City Council members, members of the Warwick School District, and those members of the general public, especially from the Warwick Police Department and Officer Enos' family and friends. Officer Enos, would you please come front and center? The State of Rhode Island citation, be it hereby known to all that the Rhode Island House of Representatives hereby offers its sincerest congratulations to Officer Kiara Enos, Warwick Police Department, in recognition of the distinguished honor of receiving the Mothers Against Drunk Driving Rookie of the Year Award for going above and beyond the call of duty to reduce alcohol-related death and injury. The entire membership of the House of Representatives extends its very best wishes on this memorable occasion and expresses the hope for continued good fortune given the 12th day of October 2022 at the State House in Providence, Rhode Island. This was proposed by the entire Warwick delegation, including Speaker K. Joseph Shikarchi, Representative David Bennett, Representative Evan Shanley, Representative Joe McNamara, Representative Joseph Solomon Jr., Representative Pat Serpa, and myself.
And Officer, congratulations. But I do want to thank you and all of our police department. A number of your colleagues are here tonight, and you all deserve awards for the work that you do every single day for our community. So thank you, and thank you to your department. So.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. At this time, I'd like to move on to executive communications. This will be a presentation on the fiscal year 2022 preliminary financial results by the Finance Director, Peter Schaefer. So the Finance Director sent this information to the council a few weeks ago. He is going to present it to us formally tonight to allow members of the public to hear it as well. If council members have any questions or comments, they can reach out to Peter at any time after the meeting. Thank you. And Mr. Schaefer, the floor is yours.
No, it's off. Thank you for asking.
How about that?
Hey.
All right. You have my report. One of the difficult things is in reporting on this, we have two benchmarks. We have first the budget as the council approved in May of 2021, which was the 23 budget, and then the revised estimates that we gave you this past May when we approved the 23 estimate. So what I'm going to summarize here is just a comparison with what the updates of this past May. So revenues were up about $2.2 million over the estimates I gave you in May of 2022. Expenses were about $700,000 lower than the estimates we gave. Not a big change. Really, most of the improvements we picked up at the time that we went through the budget process in May. So what you have is a total improvement from May of about $2.9 million. This reduced part of our plan for balancing the budget in 22 and 23 was use of ARPA funds. And as of May of 22, we were planning to use $4.6 million. That's been reduced because of better results than expected to $1.7 million. So that really reduces the structural deficit we're dealing with going forward. So we preserved our undesignated fund balance of $26 million. And we've opened up $3.9 million in of ARPA funds that we will, in the next budget process, because we have until December 31st, 2024 to spend these funds. Well, part of the budget process will be another, probably last bite of the apple at use of ARPA funds for projects or for supporting the fiscal year 23 budget. So that, in a nutshell, is my summary. You have more detailed information in the report I gave you in October. We're proceeding with the audit. The auditors have been here. They're also doing Martha's Vineyard. For some reason, they prefer to be out there in October than here. I don't know why, especially with the new building we've got. But they were here last week and the week before. The one caveat I have, we haven't received entries from the school department. Tim, who was here earlier, has given me comfort that they're going to be all right on a balanced budget for 22, but we haven't seen their entries yet. So that's where we are. Whether we'll be finished by December 31st, I can't guarantee that, but that's what we're aiming for. We have a new controller who's been doing good work on staying on top of things, asking the auditors to give us a checklist. Little problem with our pension asset reporting that we hope to have resolved soon, but nothing really that's come to my attention in the 3 weeks since I sent you this report.
Thank you, Director. And this report is available to the public. It's on the City Council website page. And if any council members or members of the public have any questions, they can reach out to the administration. So thank you, Mr. Schaefer.
Excuse me, Mr. President, we can't ask questions now?
No, not under executive communications.
Interesting.
If we could pause from here, I believe we still have some business in committees. So we will pause the council meeting for here and move back into committees. Thank you.
Let's go. We have 5 minutes? All right.
There was a request for the Warwick Finance Committee to reconvene. Are there any objections from the committee to reconvene? Is there any objections from the committee for reconsideration of a bid?
No.
Oh, sorry, correction. Is there any objection to return to bid 2023-235?
No.
Thank you. Councilman Lattiser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I need to ask Christie this questions.
If the purchasing director of DPW wouldn't mind identifying yourself to title in his department. Thank you.
Christie, sorry to have to,
Christy Moretti, Public Works Business Manager.
sorry to have to circle back, but been thinking about the significance of this issue here at the Pilgrim Center and the fact that we were actually cited by the Department of Health for a cooler, and that this has kind of dragged on for going on 5 months. The thought occurred to me, given the situation and the fact that now we know we've been using it anyways, why wasn't this addressed through a 56-6 or a 3-3 or a 6-3 and get this thing corrected right away instead of waiting 5 months to come to us?
Would you like the timeline of what happened?
No, I'm just asking why this wasn't acted on immediately.
Because we didn't have a funding source. I was notified on October 17th that the grant was approved for the senior center to buy this cooler through the state designated grant. So that day, which was the docket deadline for today, I prepared all the documents and sent it to purchasing to make the docket deadline. I can't buy something without a funding source. We didn't know about this until July in my office.
So the violation was issued, you said, at the end of June.
It was June 14th.
June 14th. So you didn't know about it until July. So someone sat around with it for 2 weeks with a violation from the Department of Health. And I mean, we can sit here tonight and talk about we didn't have a funding source. We find funding sources for other things of 56-6 nature, of 3-3 natures, 6-3s. And it just seems odd to me, given the level of this issue, that wasn't acted on immediately by the city. That cooler was not shut down and replaced immediately. I'm sure that there were funds somewheres that could have been used until a reimbursement was given. We just got done talking about $56 million worth of, we'll put it out there and we'll get reimbursed.
Councilman, I did what I needed to do as it came to me. I can't speak for anyone else, you know, that the funding source wasn't secured. I wasn't told about it until October 17th. I was told that the senior center was applying for a grant. I didn't know about I didn't even know there was an issue with the cooler until July 11th when the inspection report ended up in my email. So we've been chasing it since then. This isn't because we just sat on top of it, but we were making an effort to make sure that we could have a vendor, that we could get a cooler, even though it's going to take 9 to 10 weeks to come in, that we had a mechanism to purchase it under. So I went through the state MPA, and that there was a source to pay for it. And it came in a little bit more than what the grant they got. So now the rest of it is coming out of the Public Works Department budget.
Which is another good point. You know, had someone at the Pilgrim Center reacted to this sooner than 3 weeks to get to you, we could have saved the taxpayers about $800 too.
I mean, I can't speak for what other people in other departments do. I can only tell you the timeline as it came across my desk.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because we in Public Works sat on this waiting and, you know, just kind of pushed it aside. That's not what we do.
Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, the reality is it's taken almost 5 months to get this thing corrected, get this violation straightened out with the Department of Health. So there is no reason why we didn't do a 56-6 or a 3-3 or a 6-3 that you're aware of anyways.
No, we were waiting to be told whether or not the grant was approved for the senior center.
Okay.
We were given that information on October 17th, and I acted on it immediately, which incidentally was also the day I came back to work after a 5-week medical leave.
And so the violation you said was June 14th?
Yes,
And your department was notified on it July
11th. Well, my office was notified July 11th.
Right, yeah. You were notified on July 11th. Okay. All right, thank you, and I'll await that report as well. Thank you.
Any further discussion from members of the committee?
Thank you for indulging me on that, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, members from the council, members of the public. Hearing none, the motion, I apologize, there's no changes, there's no vote needed, it's already been passed. The time is 7:35 PM and the Finance Committee is closed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next committee to meet is the Ordinance Committee.
No, don't even go there. Not on that one.
Ordinance Committee will convene at 7:36 PM. We don't have any minutes to accept, so we can go right to PCO 2222, an ordinance to prohibit parking on the westerly side of Butler Court. This is Councilman Foley. It would be first passage. Councilman Foley requests favorable action. Councilman, just one question. Is it supported by a traffic study? Perfect. Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Any questions or comments from members of the council? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Seeing none.
Move favorable action.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that concludes Ordinance Committee at 7:37 PM.
Thank you, Chairman. The next committee to meet is the Public Safety Committee.
Public safety comes to order at 7:37. First matter before us, acceptance of minutes from the committee held on September 19th. September 7th, my bad, I'm sorry. Wrong.
Actually, it is.
No, that's what you.
We have two of the 19th.
Move to approve.
All right, let's stay with September 19th.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. PCR 131-22, resolution relative to claims. The only claim in front of us tonight is Brendan Ray, 48 Burlingame Road, West. Oh, I'm sorry, not, right, thank you. Before we do the claim, acceptance of the minutes from committee meeting held on September 7th.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now the claim for Mr. Brendan Ray. Looking over the documents, due diligence was in abundance on this. There was some discrepancy on whether it was a state road or a local road. Mr. Earl says it is our responsibility, so I'm looking for any comments from members of the committee? Any comments from members of the council? Mr. Sinapi? Councilman Sinapi?
No worries. Just give me one moment, please. I just want to double check one thing. I was confused by something I saw. Yeah, he wrote, so the 226 that's recommended, which was on the invoice, he actually added another 49 and cited the tow, but I'm not sure. I honestly don't remember if we've ever paid for towing. Even if we do, that's obviously not really something that's usually on here.
No. My recollection is for the almost 2 years I've been the chair, we have not done towing. It's repair of the tire itself.
Yeah, and I don't see a bill on here for the towing either, even though it's got everything else. So I don't, yeah, so even if we wanted to pay for it, we just have pure speculation as to the price. So I guess it's a moot point.
Chairman, if I may, I would suggest that perhaps as a future practice, because towing can be a necessary part of getting full compensation for a pothole claim that is with a cap of $300 as set by the state. I would be open to the presentation of reimbursement for the amount of the tow. However, since in this situation we don't have documentation of the price, I would agree with Councilman Snappy that there's no need for us to add that amount to the invoice amount.
Point of clarification, I have misled you. There is in fact a receipt for the towing. It looked like the prior page, I didn't even notice it. AAA, $49 it shows for the Hyundai. It shows the date, 2/14, date of service being on 2/10, service call. So, and the debt matches up with the auto service center invoice that did the repair. So unless he had his tow card, his car towed for fun, it links up.
Thank you for double checking that. In that case, it seems sufficient to me. So let's see, did we already have the call for public comment?
No, not yet.
I'll hold off to a motion until we hear from the public. Thank you.
Any other comments from members of the council? Any comments from members of the public? Comments from members of the public? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
In that case, I would move favorable action in an amount of $275.26, reflecting the invoice of the $226.26 plus the receipt amount of the tow in the amount of $49.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Back to the docket. PCR 127-22, resolution regards to installing updated signage and identifying and establishing parking spaces near Coastal Resource Management Council rights of way. Councilman Gephardt.
You will recall a short while ago, we passed an update here on the council to grant the WPD authority to go out and survey CRMC rights of way, identify which ones would support parking. We authorized them to propose up to 2 parking spots at each right of way. Did not need to be 2. The goal was to survey the particular location and identify if it could support parking. So this is a follow-up to that where that work has been done by the WPD. They have made recommendations as to which rights of way can support parking. And we've taken an omnibus approach of collecting all of those recommendations, putting them into one resolution across all the wards across the entire city to try to address this in the most expedient and efficient way. And I would request favorable action.
Okay, any comments from members of the council? I'm sorry, the committee. Members of the council. Members of the public. Please identify yourself.
Michelle Comar, through the chair. I have a recommendation for an amendment. Maybe this was covered, but the city of Warwick has right-of-ways as well. And some of them are boating access, part of our Blue Ways system for canoers or other boaters. Some of them are pedestrian access, and they all also include at times paper streets that go to the shoreline. And this is confusing to people that live in neighborhoods because I've gotten the questions. Is this a CRMC right-of-way or is it a city right-of-way? So if you go to the tax assessor's map, you can kind of get a feel for paper streets that are not used, they're abandoned, or they might have been incorporating the adjoining properties. But the comp plan addresses those that they are high priority to be preserved. And I think they should get the same kind of survey and recognition, signage, and parking if available. Parking is going to be tough. Some of these neighborhoods, particularly I'm thinking in Ward 4, in Bayside, Ward 5, Bayside area, are dead ends, and they're not cul-de-sacs, and there are driveways right there. I lived on Katy Avenue, and people would park and block your driveway. So it's going to be tough to maintain emergency access in all these spots. And I'm sure the local residents will give you input and stories about problems there. But I think I applaud this resolution because it will help people recognize opportunities to access the shoreline and other water bodies in Warwick. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
Just a quick note, I missed the council part to speak, but I received emails from constituents fully supporting this. Just wanted to point it out.
Can you repeat that, please? I could not hear you.
No worries. I just wanted to point out that I received emails from constituents in full support of this legislation.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the council? Comments from the public? Hearing none. Do we have a motion?
Move favorable action.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
PCR 12822, a resolution in regards to establishing one handicap parking space in front of 17 Tomahawk Court. Councilman Gebhardt.
Respectfully request favorable action. I was contacted by this constituent who currently has a handicap placard on his vehicle, and he often has difficulty parking on the street in front of his own house when neighbors have events and whatnot going on. And so we're moving to fix that for him. So thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the committee? Any comments from the council? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, we have a motion.
Move favorable action.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Time. The committee ends at 7:48. I was letting you, you thought about it. Take it that was one of Sanapi's constituents. The guy with the coat. Oh, wait, actually, no, I think that was Westwall. Yeah. That makes sense.
This is Ward 8, so he knows the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is. The TBS.
That's why I got told Camille like districts, I should say.
Big mix. Big mix.
So like, some walking on Sunday, some houses, we did that. Like my call in the morning, so that was nice. So we do a lot of people, I did that 3 different times, and Sunday was the big one. Every door I went up and knocked on. Because again, there's people I developed relationships with. So it's
Right.
yeah, and then there was another day that did a cold call, and a lot of people did make to the books. But I mean, you know, that's it. I mean, but I like that. And then, of course, reviewing, that's one thing. I don't know, I've been reviewing a lot of projects, like, you know, the 4-3, like, on the 9th, we got.
For the opera?
We got another.
For opera or for?
No,
Plant,
no, the
public,
projects for opera are pretty much, you know, I only have.
public, hearing thing.
I'm talking planning, like, you know,
Yeah.
on Post Road, apartments on Post Road.
What's the next thing coming up?
We are now back into the full city council meeting. So if you are watching us from home, we have done roll call, salute to the flags, general communications, and executive communications. So now we're moving to A, acceptance of the minutes from the council meeting held on October 17th. Councilman Howell.
Move favorable action.
Second by Councilman Foley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any objections? The minutes pass. We're now moving on to item number 1, announcement of appointments. There is one, Councilman Gephardt.
You are correct that there is one. Appointment to the Board of Public Safety, Michael L. Gilbert of Ward 7.
Thank you very much. The second item is appointments requiring confirmation. There are none. So we're going to move to number 3, which is the consent calendar. First up is PCR 129-22, resolution relative to bids. Committee report, finance.
Favorable action.
For action, Councilman Howe.
Move favorable action.
Second by Councilman Foley and Councilman Gephardt. Go ahead, Councilman Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bid 2022-082, State of Rhode Island Public Safety Communications Equipment. Bid 2023-236, purchase various police vehicles. Bid 2023-204, Harley Davidson FLHTP Electra Glide. Bid 2023-188, police breast hat badges, insignias, nameplates, and mourning badges. Bid 2023-203, radar calibrations and repair. Bid 2022-096, radio communications equipment service repairs and replacement. Bid 2022-291, Bravo overhead door repair and replacement. Bid 2021-172, State of Rhode Island ice melt products. And bid 2023-242, State of Rhode Island office supplies, school supplies, standard paper, and toner. That concludes the bid package. Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Councilman Howe. Next up is PCR 130-22, a resolution relative to abatements. Committee report, Finance.
Favorable action.
For action, Councilman Howe. You could just move it favorable with the, and read that into the new amount.
Understood. Move favorable action.
Second by Councilman Foley and Councilman Gephardt. Go ahead, if you can let us know the new number, please.
Yes, Mr. President. The number is $24,493.25.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Number 3 is PCR 131-22, a resolution relative to claims, committee report, public safety.
Recommend favorable action.
For action, Councilman Foley.
PCR 131, Brendan Ray, favorable action in the amount of $275.26.
That is a motion, second by Councilman Rex. Okay, so all 3 have been moved and seconded. Are there any questions on the consent calendar? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action on the consent calendar.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt? Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Snappy? Ms. Travis?
Yes.
9 yes, consent passes.
Thank you. The consent calendar passes. I believe 2 items have been pulled off the consent calendar. Councilman Howe.
Yes, Mr. President. Favorable action on former bid 2023-235, now PCR 132-22. Favorable action with amendment.
Okay, for action, Councilman Howe.
Favorable action? Oh, I apologize. This was to purchase and install a walk-in cooler at Pilgrim Senior Center. The original bid was for $50,000. The amended bid is for $50,744.45. That is an increase of $744.45. The monies will be $50,000 of that will come from account 47799. And the amount of $744.45 will come from building maintenance account 66331.
Okay, that is a motion. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Councilman Foley and Councilman Gephardt. Okay, any discussion on the amendment? Okay, hearing none, the clerk will call roll for favorable action on the amendment.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley? Yes. Mr. Gephardt?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Snappy? Yes. Ms. Travis?
Yes.
9 yes.
Thank you. The amendment passes. Councilman Howe.
Mr. President, there was a request for a PCR on the abatements, PCR 133.
We're just gonna, we need to move the amendment first for this one.
Move favorable action.
As amended.
As amended.
Second by Councilman Foley and Councilman Gephardt. Any questions? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll of favorable action as amended to the new number of $50,744.45.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt? Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Snappy? Ms. Travis?
Yes.
9 yes.
Thank you. The amendment passes. The second item that was pulled off, Councilman Howe.
Thank you. Favorable action.
For
With
action,
amendment.
Councilman Howe.
Favorable action.
For the new number of 968.
$968.80. PCR 133-22.
And that is second by Councilman Foley, Councilman Gephardt. Any questions on the amendment? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll on the amendment.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser? Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Snappy? Ms. Travis?
Yes.
9 yes on the amendment.
Councilman Sinapi, is this the one that you needed to?
PCR 133-32.
Correct.
Did you abstain?
You abstain.
Abstain.
Councilman Sinapi abstains on
He
this
abstained.
vote.
I didn't even hear him, I'm sorry. So it's 8 yes, 1 abstention.
On the amendment, okay. So the amendment passes. Councilman Howe,
As amended, 133-22.
move favorable.
Move favorable action.
And second by Councilman Foley. All right, any questions? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. Favorable action as amended.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi? Ms. Travis?
Yes.
8 yes, 1 abstention.
Thank you. Motion passes. We're now moving to unfinished business. There are none. So now we're going to move to new business. First up is PCO 22-22, an ordinance prohibited parking on the westerly side of Butler Court. Committee report ordinance.
Committee recommends favorable action.
For action, Councilman Foley.
Move favorable action.
Second by Councilman Lattiser. Any questions or comments that were not asked earlier this evening in the ordinance committee? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi? Yes. Ms. Travis?
Yes.
9 yes, motion passes.
Thank you. The motion passes. Next up is PCR 117-22, a resolution relative to issuing requests for proposals for American Rescue Plan Act community projects. Committee report, finance.
Favorable action.
For action, Councilwoman Travis.
I move favorable action on PCR-117-22.
Second by Councilman McElroy, Councilman Lattiser, Councilman Howe. Any questions or comments on this that were not asked earlier this evening in the Finance Committee? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi? Ms. Travis?
Yes.
9 yes, motion passes.
Thank you. The motion passes. We are now moving on to item number 3, which is PCR 123-22, a resolution authorizing the City of Warwick to issue not to exceed 56 million general obligation bonds. Committee report, finance.
Favorable action.
For action, Councilman Howe.
Move favorable action.
Second by Councilman Foley and Councilman Gephardt. Any questions or comments to be made at this time? Councilman Lattiser.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So I had some conversation with Mr. Gothberg after and others, and I'm satisfied that the ride protection is in this particular resolution. So I'm not going to be moving forward with my amendment.
Thank you, Councilman Lattiser. Any other questions or comments from members of the council? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action on PCR 123-22.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser? Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi? Yes. Ms. Travis?
Yes.
9 yes, motion passes.
Thank you. The motion passes. Number 4 this evening is PCR 127-22, Committee Report, Public Safety. For action, Councilman Gephardt.
Move favorable action.
Second by Councilwoman Travis and Councilman Lattiser. Any questions or comments that were not asked earlier this evening in the Public Safety Committee? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi? Yes. Ms. Travis?
Yes.
9 yes, motion passes.
Thank you. The motion passes. Number 5 this evening is PCR 128-22, Committee Report, Public Safety.
Recommend favorable action.
For action, Councilman Gephardt.
Move favorable action.
Second by Councilman Lattiser, Councilman Howe, and Councilman Foley. Any questions or comments that were not asked earlier this evening in the Public Safety Committee? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi? Yes. Ms. Travis?
Yes.
9 yes, motion passes.
Motion passes. Thank you. We are now moving to referrals and advertising. First up is PCO 24-22, an ordinance amending the zoning of the City of Warwick, 203 Centerville Road. Second item is PCO 25-22, an ordinance relative to abandonment of a portion of Clark Street. And item number 3 is PCO 26-22, an ordinance amending the zoning of the City of Warwick, New England Institute of Technology. We are now moving to unanimous consent. Ward 1, anything to docket under unanimous consent?
Pass.
Ward 2.
Pass.
Ward 3.
Pass.
Ward 4.
Pass.
Ward 5.
Pass.
Ward 6.
Pass.
Ward 7 passes. Ward 8. Ward 9.
Pass.
Councilwoman Travis.
If there be no further businesses on our body, I move to a docket session.
All those in favor to move into docket session, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are now in the docket session. Ward 1, anything to docket this evening?
No, thank you.
Ward 2,
Pass.
Ward 3,
Pass.
Ward 4,
Pass.
Ward 5.
Yes, Mr. President, I have two. One is an ordinance. The title will be Ballot and Election Integrity. The contents will be to define the process for certifying candidates to have their name included on the ballot, as well as implementing double checks and sign-offs.
We'll put that in the ordinance committee.
Absolutely.
Let the record show Councilman Ricks would like to co-sponsor.
Thank you. The second, I'm not sure if it's a resolution or an ordinance. I think it's a resolution. Tentative title is an amendment to Rule 41. That's Council Rule 41. The content is to define the 15-minute public comment with specific language regarding time allowed. Bless you.
Intergovernmental.
And a resolution or an ordinance?
Resolution.
Thank you.
Ward 6, anything to docket this evening? Ward 7, I have one, a resolution in regards to establishing the Warwick Tourism Improvement District. That'll be in finance. Ward 8. Ward 9.
Just one. Resolution directing the Warwick Planning Department to establish protections for Dolly Farm under the public trust.
Public properties and land use. That's it? All right, then we are adjourned. Thank you very much.